Hi there, gardeners. It's Mila Fournier here again with some tips on taking care of your transplants, your seedlings. I've got a tray here full of tomato seedlings. They're, I don't know, maybe about 3 inches tall or so. And they're like nice and stout and healthy. And I've been putting them under my grow lights, and they live under my grow lights. The grow lights are just a couple of inches above where the leaves are, and that's how they get to be nice and strong. I also kind of pet them a little bit every once in a while. Having something to resist actually makes the stems grow stronger. But today's going to be a tough day here because this is too many seedlings. So you can see there, see how in this one cell there are two, and it looks a little bit like a jungle there. And if you remember any of your biology classes, jungles work because you've got this overstory that kind of shades everything, and then everything that grows underneath that grows in the shade. Well, what's happening here is that a bunch of these leaves are starting to overstory other leaves in here. When I seeded these, I usually put about 2 seeds per cell. But I had calculated that I only wanted a certain number of tomatoes. This is double the number of tomatoes that I want. I actually had really a very, very good germination rate with these. So there's only a few where only one germinated, and a couple where none germinated. So it's time to cull. It's tough. It's hard. Even as somebody who's done this tens and probably hundreds of thousands of times, growing seedlings, I always hate doing this part, but I'm gonna do it because it's important for my plants. If I can pull out the strongest ones here and let them continue to grow, and put the weaker ones in my compost, what it means is that those stronger ones will get really strong, and then they won't be quite so crowded here trying to get to the light. Another thing about these, they're going to be pretty soon ready to pot up into a larger pot. So right now what happens is when the tomato first comes out, it's got 2 leaves. They aren't the true leaves, they're the cotyledons. They're the kind of leaf packet that's packed inside of the seed. And then as time goes on, it starts to put out a second set of leaves. So this is the youngest one I've got here. So you can see those 2 leaves that are kind of longer. Those are the inside the seed leaves. And then here you're beginning to get the first set of leaves that look more like an actual tomato leaf. And then on some of these, you're actually starting to get another set of leaves. So these are now like in full growth, and they need a lot in order to grow. And what you can see here, if you look down at the soil, this is a little bit dry. At this end, where I've got some chervil and some other herbs, this, not dry at all. It's actually pretty moist. You can see this color is a lot darker. That's because these plants aren't taking up nearly as much water as these are. These guys are sucking up water like crazy because they're growing like weeds. So I'm going to go through and pick out 1 plant per cell, and I'm going to pick out the strongest. How do I pick out the strongest? I pick out the strongest by picking out the one that is usually the stoutest and the widest. In this case, a tall plant is not your friend. Tall is leggy, and it needs to be a little bit more weak because it's gotten so tall. You want stout and short, which is a great way to begin to judge some of these things. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go through each one of these, and I'm going to pick, well, this one seems to be really good. I'm going to take a pair of scissors and get rid of the one that's not terribly good. And the reason I'm using scissors and not just pulling it out is because at this point, when they're this size, the roots have already kind of intertwined a bit. If I yank out one of them, it's going to tear at those other roots, and I don't want to do that. So let me get this propped up a little bit so I don't have to keep holding it, and you'll see what I'm doing here. So I think I'm gonna come at it from the side where you can see a little better. All right. So let's start with this corner here. In this corner, I've got this one that has the first couple little leaves coming up, And I've got this one that's got a little more. This one's a little taller. This is not a great one to have to choose from because neither of them look terribly strong. But I'm going to go ahead and choose one. And I'm going to choose the one that's shorter and stouter and starting to put out its new leaves. Now, on to the next two. Okay. This one, you can see it's already kind of flopping over, and this one's kind of shorter and stouter. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one. That's the flopping one. And I'm going to leave room for this shorter and stouter one to start getting bigger. All right. Oh, look at this. Here we have 3. And they're all about the same height. But this one here seems to have kind of a thicker stem. So I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to snip and snip. And so what I've done here by doing that, suddenly these guys have a lot more access to the light than they did before, because before they were really struggling to reach that light. And I'm going to continue doing that over and over again throughout this entire tray until I have a thinned out tray. Then I'm going to give the plants that remain a nice feeding, and with like a liquid fertilizer, I use a fish emulsion seaweed fertilizer, and then I'm going to put them back under their lights, and they're going to continue to grow nice and strong. These little bits here are going to go right into my compost. If this was an edible leaf thing, it would go right into my salad. So I'm going to be doing the same thing a little bit later today with my salad greens that I was growing on my windowsill. In fact, I'll show you how they look right now. Pretty thick. So I'm going to have a nice sandwich today at my lunchtime, and I'm going to throw a bunch of these salad greens on that lunch. So it's tough. It feels like, oh, I worked so hard to grow these. You're going to be so much happier having fewer plants to take care of, but that you can take care of better by doing this process. So happy gardening, and enjoy this beautiful rainy day by gardening inside. Bye.